I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Welcome to the weekly Saturday morning Freedom Forum. Each and every week, we bring you information about what's going on in the nation and even around the world that affects people of color, affects African American and poor people all across the globe. We try to inspire you to act and get you engaged in the movement for social change. And so today, we want to share with you, this week we have shifted our food giveaway program to include giving away boxes of groceries. We want to feed families whose primary wage winner lost their job or they're underemployed, having seniors having to choose between eating and taking medicine. And so this week alone, we were able to distribute 433 boxes of groceries to families in need of groceries. And these grocery boxes could feed a family of 4 for at least 1 week. We want you to help us do more of these type of programs. In addition to that, we've been continuing to give our prepared meals to homeless, to those who are veterans, to those who are seniors, to those who are living in shelters. We want to make sure that everyone has a healthy meal each and every day, and you can help us. The other program we have is our diaper program. We're trying to make sure that mothers of children, infants, have the sufficient amount of diapers. We've discovered that the food stamp program does not allow a mother to purchase diapers. So if you have a baby, you now have to decide how you're going to make some money just to buy the diapers. Each child needs at least 8 to 12 diapers per day. That's a significant cost to someone who's living on the margins of poverty. Or you can help us. Reverend Jackson is calling for those in the city of Chicago to bring diapers to our headquarters. Those around the country, we're asking pastors to do a diaper drive for people who live in your city, live in your community. Our children should not have to get rashes and get diseases because they don't have sufficient change of diapers. The other thing that we're doing is fighting for access to opportunities, and so we've hosted our Silicon Valley Conference in Chicago this week, hosted by our Silicon Director, Reverend Joseph Bryant. It's been a powerful conference as we've taken on the tech giants and we've engaged them in opening up not only the C-suites but procurement opportunities, supplier diversity opportunities. So we'll share some of that with you. We've been working to make sure that those who are sitting in county jails, who've not been convicted of any crime but are merely awaiting trial, that they have an opportunity to exercise their citizenship rights, that they can vote. And so you will see a clip of Reverend Jackson at Cook County Jail making sure that those who are at county jail will vote in this election. Dr. Todd Urey will share our pretrial detention study, where we're fighting to make sure that anyone who is sitting in a county jail anywhere in America, they should be able to vote, and that there should be a process that allows them to vote in this upcoming election. And we have so many other things that we want to share with you. You want to get involved. You want to make sure you're informed. You should be getting Reverend Jackson's weekly column. You see it on the screen. You can go to rainbowpush.org. download the column. You can go to rainbowpush.org, become a member. That's one way of starting your involvement. Go to rainbowpush.org and get informed, making sure that you are connected to the information that keeps you connected to what things are going on in the world that you and I should be concerned about. Well, I don't have much more time. You're going to see on this broadcast something about voting and voter suppression from the Transformative Justice March. Attorney Barbara Arnwine has been leading demonstrations across the country, urging people to vote early, urging people to get the mail-in ballots and take them and drop them in the mail-in boxes. We're going to win this election. We're going to transform this society in a way that benefits us with criminal justice reform, that makes sure that we have judges who are meting out justice. We're going to make sure that we have legislators at the state level who are going to change the criminal justice laws and who are going to make sure that student loan debt is addressed, that the rising cost of tuition is addressed, that funding for public education is addressed. We're going to make sure we elect people to the Senate that will approve the presidential appointments in a manner that protects the rights of all Americans. We know that you are concerned, we're concerned. Join us and vote about it.
We here at Rainbow Push want you to join us at 930 East 50th Street on October 24th. Why? Because you have made it for the first few weeks of school, and we are very proud of you. All of you parents, all of you students who are at home trying your best, doing a virtual school, as well as the parents who are sending your students to school and doing it through prayer and wanting them to come home safely. So Push is doing our part. We are supplying you with school supplies on October 24th. We have everything from book bags and all the supplies that you need to t-shirts. And who would have thought that now this year we would need all of the protective materials. So we even have that included this year. We have everything from masks for your students to pencil cases, as well as supplies. So do not hesitate to stop by with your family on October 24th from 12 to 2 at 930 East 50th Street and make sure that you have everything that you need. We are pushing for you.
In the stormy season of violent campaign rhetoric, we're called to be steady in the face of the whirlwind. There's a tug of war for America's soul. We have a clear choice: take down walls of separation, build bridges of hope and unity. Love must trump ignorance and fear and hatred and violence.
Our vote is our voice. Let's march the polls together, keep them alive. Let nothing break your spirit, never surrender. Vote, 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 and keep hope alive.
Good morning, everybody. This is Attorney Robert Patillo. I am the Executive Director of the Rainbow Push Coalition Peachtree Street Project here in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's a great conversation we're going to have today on the state of youth activism. We have Dr. John Carlos. Many of you know him from the 1968 Olympics and the iconic photo of him standing with his fist in the air. One of the things we've been pushing is this concept of intergenerational dialogue, making sure that we're working across the lines generationally, so that we're not reinventing the wheel every time we go through one of these areas of social justice reform. This conversation was kind of spurred on earlier this year during the racial reckoning this summer, and seeing T-shirts and social media messaging saying, "I am not my ancestors." I took that as a challenge to educate this generation on how important it is to not simply be our ancestors, but to appreciate them and to take that baton and go forward. So with that, I'll turn over the floor to Dr. John Carlos. Dr. Carlos, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. I'm really honored to be here. It's been a while since I did any work with the Rainbow Coalition, but it's always good to be involved in their program because they reach so many people, and particularly the fact that they're reaching out to so many young individuals. So I'm honored once again to be here.
Thank you so much. And just because we have, I think some of our panelists range from 17 to 40, so it's a broad swath of younger individuals, and also particularly want to ensure to make sure we highlighted young male leaders who have been left in the wash a little bit by the popular media. Can you tell people kind of your story? What got you into activism? What led to that iconic photo? And your life since then? What because people think that things ended in '68, but there's been a lot of living since then. So I want to give you the opportunity to kind of articulate that to our listeners and viewers.
Well, believe it or not, man, I had an intervention. As a young child, I was 7, 8 years old, and the powers to be in this universe sent me actually a video of myself. I don't know whether you call it a premonition or what, but it showed me actually a video of myself in a field. All I saw was a grass field. I could hear a tremendous amount of people applauding. I'm standing in this grass field on a box, no one there but me, and everyone's applauding, and I felt that, wow, I'm here. It must be something I did. And I went to raise my hand. As a child, when you do something, you want to raise your hand so high, you actually get up on your toes because you want everybody to see you. And just as I went to raise my hand, it's like someone hit a light switch, and all the applause immediately turned to anger and venom. It scared me so much until it stayed with me that whole day, until that evening my father realized that I was traumatized about something. I told him, I said, Daddy, I was in a movie. He said, you were in a movie? I said, yes. Now, all this culminated up until 1968 on that victory stand. If you was to look at the portrait on the victory stand, you'll see that I'm calm, but I'm in a deep thought. And the first thing that came to mind was that vision that I had, because actually what happened in that vision was taking place on that victory stand in Mexico City. It let me know then that, first of all, within that vision, it told me, have no fear. I have you in my hands. All my life, I followed that rule. I have no fear for what I think is right. Even down to the point when I was a child, before my father would realize what I was doing or what I was up to, he would whip my butt for things that he thought I was doing wrong. But I never backed away from what my beliefs were relative to my father or anything in society. I have a passion for my people because as a young man in New York, Harlem, on Lenox Avenue, I was born and raised between the two most famous clubs on the planet at that time was the Savoy Ballroom and the Cotton Club. I noticed all the white folks at one point were intermingling with everyone in Harlem, and then all of a sudden they decided that they wanted to move. And I remember asking my dad, I said, Pop, why are they moving? He said, son, I don't know why they're moving, but I would think that they're moving because they don't like the fact that the domesticated workers, which were us, are moving now to be their next door neighbors. So they decide to flight and leave and go to the suburbs. But yet and still, when they left, they still came back to the Savoy Ballroom. They would be dressed in tuxedos and top hats and pigtails and ponytails and the whole 9 yards. And we would be out in front singing, my Bonnie Lies over the ocean, opening the cab doors, helping the ladies out. But then I realized also that we had them in our community that never left. The mom and pop grocery store that we thought Black people owned because we were behind the cash register, I would notice that I would see someone white would come out from behind a door where they're looking out to this glass mirror where they could see out, but I couldn't see in, and go to the register and take the money out of the register, maybe leave change for $100 in the register and go back behind the door. And then I'm beginning to see all these things as a young individual, and I began to realize that we had a problem, a significant problem, and it seemed like no one knew how to deal with it. I grew up with this in mind, and I had to have a platform. You have to have a platform and build something so people would listen to you. Well, the platform that God gave me was athletics. I chose to get involved in athletics because I felt the best I could possibly be in athletics, the greater my voice would be. If I got to be a superstar, everyone would listen to me. I began to realize that within that, as much as I trained my body to be perfection, I had to train my mind to be even more perfected in terms of being focused on what my goals were and carrying them through with passion. As you see, for 52 years now, I have the same passions I had back in October 16th, 1968. And I like to employ these young individuals out there today to take those things to account and let them know that this is not in the moment, this is in the movement.
And can you talk a little bit about that movement? Because, we had the entire controversy with LeBron James and other athletes with shut up and dribble. This idea that you're supposed to stay in one lane. Can you kind of talk about that balance, particularly, 50 years ago, between activist and athlete?
Well, you have to realize that before you're an athlete, you're a human being. And no one has the right to take that away from you as being a human being and conducting yourself as such. Yes, I'm an athlete, and I have to make ownership know, coaches know that, yes, although you're a great coach, although you're a respected owner, you have to give me my same respect and give me my realm in society. If you feel like you've done it all, take into account that, yes, you're the cow that gives the milk, and I appreciate that, but it looks like you disrespect me as an individual that is the grass in order for the cow to give the milk. If there's no grass, there's no cow. So athletes have to take that into account and make them realize that they have a responsibility, not just merely on the court to have an even playing field, but have an even playing field dealing with mentorship, coaching, ownership, all of that. Let them know that they have to play a significant part to make a better society, not just merely for you, but all the people that look like you. You have to take into account that as a superstar, you can be in the stadium and win the last touchdown or shoot the last bucket, as I saw Mr. Davis do, Anthony Davis do in the Laker championship. But at the same time, when he won that game, hitting that last bucket, based on the color of his skin, he can go from the locker room to his car and merely be killed merely because of the color of his skin. They won't realize who Mr. Davis was until after his demise. So we have to take all this into account and realize that this is substantial racism that's taking place. And only way we're going to wipe it out is to, first of all, wipe out the fears that they've put on us over the generations of time.
Can you talk a little bit about the consequences of 68 and what happened thereafter? Because I think often people see the iconic moments, people see the what goes down in history, but what were the results of that? What happened to your career, to Tommie Smith's career, to discussions to other people who were active in the movement?
Well, I don't know whether they have a big concern about their careers as much as they have concern about life. And if I step out of line, I might lose my job, I might lose my life. But remember this, you're going to die anyway. And as a young individual, you have to take into account, I don't care if you're 15 years old, if you plant that seed and a baby comes into the world under that seed, your responsibility is secondary to self. Your responsibility is to make it a better life for that child that you brought into the world. So this is something that I've followed all my life in terms of when I was on that victory stand. I wasn't concerned about repercussions based on what I did, because I felt once I set the precedent, you can never take that away. It's done. But for me to have fear that I might lose my life, or have fear that I might be disenfranchised based on my beliefs, then so be it. I remember people used to tell me, say, John, you're going the wrong way. John, you screwed up your life. You'll never work in America again. And I used to tell them, say, well, man, everyone is swimming downhill and I'm swimming uphill. You tell me I'm going the wrong way. But the bottom line is, let's get to the finish line and then we'll see who's going the wrong way. Well, here we are 52 years later, and now I'm on top of the heap relative to what people were saying relative to John Carlos being wiped out or stopped based on my beliefs and my vision.
I want to open this up for more of a discussion format about what we need to be doing, because you're the youngest on the panel, for this next generation to learn from people like Dr. Carlos and what we can do to move this movement forward.
I wanted to go into this question about education, and it's a perfect segue. We have been recently seeing a lot of Black rappers, Killer Mike, T.I., Ice Cube, Kanye West, so many others that have positioned themselves to speak on behalf of the Black community and uplift these plans. I come from a family of activists and educators, and one of the things that concerns me is the lack of focus on education, with 68% of Black children and youth who are illiterate in this country. And so, with your expertise and your experience as an activist, how can we get more Black people who are educated, who have platforms like these rappers and other entertainers, to really drive home the importance of education as far as helping us build a sound economic and political plan for Black people to advance in this country?
Well, remember what I stated earlier, and you brought it in as well. Education is the key. And I stated earlier that, hey man, there's no one Black this way, one Black that way. Black is Black. And the only way we're going to actually come together is to have the rappers sit down at that round table. To have Ice Cube. I see just like they're talking about what Ice Cube had to say relative to President Trump. And then you sit back, I read today, just before we start the program, what 50 Cent talking about he going to Trump. But at the same time, it has to be some sort of dialogue. They're not sitting at the table to hear what you have to say. They're not sitting to hear what the brother in D.C. have to say. This is just something that they feel that they have a public medium, and they can go out and say what they want to say, and they don't realize until down the line that maybe I got played merely because I had a strong following. If I say something, the following is going to lead towards what I'm saying, opposed to them giving thought to what they're saying or what they're doing. So once again, I would say the best thing is to bring these individuals to the point where you say, let me call Ice Cube out and let Ice Cube know, say, hey man, we need to have a venue to sit down and talk with you. You need to extend your arm and get a hold of 50 Cent, tell 50 Cent, we need to have a venue where we can all come together and have some dialogue as young individuals to say, hey, this ball is going to be in our court soon. As you sit back and think about all the Black civil rights activists, we falling off the bench every day. And if we fall off the bench and there's no exchange from them to us, where you guys going to be back at ground zero again? Because we still running our own separate ways and we don't have any really unity amongst what we trying to accomplish.
Shout out to everybody on the Black Power wall behind them. We did not coordinate this before the call. It just so happens everybody has a wall of epic Black figures that they sit in front of. It's good to know that I'm not the only one. But Jason, go ahead.
Not more so of a question, but I think that our role is so important in how our future moves forward. And it was just, an honor for me yesterday to be able to listen to our young people who, quite honestly, for my generation, we do uphold, and there's nothing against, anyone's thoughts, but we do uphold, Black entertainers to a different standard. And a lot of people follow what they say and do. And one of the things that gives me courage is that the young people today they see through it. Because we can't send mixed messages. And I think that even the role of Black rappers and the division that we're seeing in our communities is that we can't push messages that disrespect Black women, that uphold criminal activity, that say it's good to be a gangster, drug dealer, hustler, disrespecting Black Muslims, Black Jews, Black anything other than Black male rappers. That we have to be realistic about this, because Tupac even talked about this in his work. And that's why he created books, and that's why he created poetry, and that's why he created other messages to move the people, just like Nipsey Hussle. So I think that it's very important for us as educators, as fathers, as Black males who are pushing the mantle for justice, is that we have a balance of voices at the table. Because if I was a Black woman and I'm sitting up here like we want to just push Black rappers to the front line of being leaders, how do we think that makes them feel? Or Black children that have been disrespected in the lyrics that they put out. So we cannot just ignore the fact that for decades, Black rappers have done this, and the world has taken that and portrayed Black men as thugs and to further criminalize us. So I think that we have to find and strike that balance very quickly, because our young people are losing the faith in us, in this current generation, not the older generation, because our education system doesn't even teach them about you all. We have to do that. So I think we have to change our mindset how we're doing the movement.
Let me add to that too, brother, and say this. You know, back in the 40s and the 50s, man, there was a local train, made local stops. And your space and time today, man, it's a bullet train. So when we was on that local train, we going by, man, and we could see things, we could focus a little bit and try and make some sort of decisions. But now it's going so fast by you until, man, they feeding so much into you until we can't comprehend. At the same time, while it's going that way, we as Black people are so fragmented. We're, you know what I mean, just like a glass hitting the ground, we're just shattered everywhere. We don't know who to believe in the Black community. We don't know whether this is true, was it true. And that's why I say, man, we all as Black people have to come together, man, to have some dialogue. Have to be rappers, have to be singers, have to be athletes, have to be clergy, have to be educators, has to be all of us sit down and say, hey, what direction are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? Are we just want to be part of the new modern day jet set? Are we just going to buy into social media and have no direction and no purpose? Or are we going to really try and look at where we have come from and where we're trying to go?
Dr. Carlos, this has been an outstanding conversation that we've had. I want to give the last couple minutes to you to close us out with any closing statements, and also tell us how we can follow you on social media, how we can get a copy of the comic book when it comes out, and any other projects you have that you're working on that you need our help with as the up and coming generation, so we can work on this intergenerational dialogue.
Well, let me start by saying thank you for mentioning my book again. I have a new page that I just devised. It's called JohnCarlos1968.com. Go to that page. We got everything that you need there. We got a blog. We got everything, all the products that I might be trying to sell. I have a face mask that I created, and I got one with stars and stripes. People say, wow, man, why is that stars and stripes? Because everybody was anti the flag. And I told them, I said, hey, I put this thing up, and my key tag for this face mask is defining the flag. And in my statement, I did something with TMZ, and I said to them, I said, listen, I'll put it on this flag to let them know that, hey, man, we were born to this country against our will. We have a significant history in this country. We built this country. And I'm here to let you know that we're not going to leave the flag. We're not going to leave the country. We're going to be here until America either rise or fall. But we are part of this country, and you can never dictate, tell us go back to Africa or sit down or just go and play, that kind of attitude. No, we're here to stay. Simple as that. My page, once again, John Carlos 1968. Go to the page. Invite your friends to the page. Tell your kids about the page. If you have involved in educators, tell them about the page, because I have some things on there that I will put down just to try and open individuals' minds for them to think for themselves. It's not me. God didn't give me anything special that he didn't give you. Only difference is I'll open the door and walk through it. All I'm asking you to do is the same thing. Open the door of your mind and walk through it. Realize that, hey, once again, as I stated, this is not your life if you have a child. Now it's about your child's life. Everything that you're doing right now is to make it a better life for your child. And the only way we're going to make it a better life for our child is to kill this thing called racism. And before we can kill racism, the biggest factor, we got to kill the fear factor that we have. We have to stop being fearful that I might lose my job. You would find a job, you would look for one when you found that job. Have no fear about your life, because rest assured you're not going to live for eternity anyway. We all going to die. But the question is not about what you did the day you was born. The question is not about what you did the day you died. The question is, what did you do between those 2 days?
Dr. John Carlos, Olympian, legend, activist, icon. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive
to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities, if you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. And you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Verholden. I'm an epidemiologist and the Associate Dean of Public Health Integration at the Michigan State University. On behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, I'd like to talk to you today about how to plan your vote and vote your plan. You have a constitutional right to vote. I want to help you figure out how to do that while staying healthy and staying safe. We've all heard the acronym PPE, Personal Protective Equipment. Well, I'd like you to consider a new acronym, PPE plus C. Prepare at home, plan your vote, execute your voting plan, and have a contingency plan, which I call Plan C. How to prepare at home. The first thing is you have to register to vote. You could go to vote.org, make sure that you're registered and haven't inadvertently been purged from the rolls. Know what's on your ballot. If you don't have an absentee ballot, you can get a sample ballot going online or going in person to your county clerk's office or your local election office. A lot of the long lines that you see outside are because people are waiting until they're inside to understand what's on the ballot. Get your day of supplies. I'll run through a checklist for you in the end of what you'll need to vote safely and to have all your needs met. On the day of home preparation, make sure you manage your personal needs. Make sure that you've eaten, that you're not thirsty, and that you've used the restroom before you leave the house. Be sure to dress for the weather and plan for inclement weather. And please wash your hands before you leave the house. This is to protect you and also to protect others. To plan your vote, you've got to pick a day and a time. You also have to pick a method. Are you going to vote in person? Are you going to drop your vote off at a ballot box? Are you going to have somebody drop your ballot off for you? Pick a method and know the locations based on the method that you choose. At many places, the number of polls and places where you can vote have been reduced, as well as changes to where ballot boxes are located. Pick your location. Have a plan A and a plan B. In case you go to vote in person and the lines are too long and you can't wait, know where your ballot box is and have a plan B and drop it off. Do not mail your ballot. We are simply too close to November 3rd. We cannot guarantee that your ballot will make it in time. Do not mail your ballot. And no, if your plan is to vote November 3rd, that's not a plan. You have to vote early. November 3rd leaves very little room for anything to go wrong. If you can, vote early. Now, executing your voting plan. Go vote. Take other voters with you. And importantly, only take other voters with you. This is a great time to model and demonstrate the behavior that we want to see in others. I personally really love taking my kids to the polls. This is not the time to do that. Go vote, take other voters, find other ways to share in the experience with loved ones. Practice mindful enthusiasm. Tap elbows, fist bump, but do not yell, scream, do anything that would put you in elevated risk of spreading or contracting the virus. We know that it's airborne. Yelling and screaming will only place you and others in harm's way. And then pivot if needed and go to plan B. Now for the plus C. That's the contingency plan, or what I call the plan C. If you get to the polls and something seems off, if you have any doubt, get out. Report any irregularities by calling 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And if your plan A and your plan B don't work, well, now you need a plan C. And again, do not mail your ballot. We are simply too close to the election to ensure that it will make it in and be counted. Now here's your day of checklist. You need your ballot. If you don't have your absentee ballot, you should have a sample ballot and be prepared to mark your choices. You need a black pen. Bring your own. It's the safest way for you to mark your choices. Bring your cell phone. That'll allow you to share in the experience with others and also do real-time reporting if you notice any irregularities. Bring a snack just in case there's a long wait, and bring 1 bottle of water. Remember, the more you eat and the more you drink, the more likely it is that you may have to lose your place in line and go to the restroom. Be sure to bring your PPE, your mask, your hand sanitizer. If you choose to wear gloves, leave those gloves at the polling place. Drop them in the trash before you leave. And if you have any mobility issues or concerns about standing, bring a chair. I hope I've helped you today figure out how to plan your vote and vote your plan. It's your right, and you need to be counted now more than ever. On behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, I'm Deborah Verholden. Thank you very much. Be safe, everybody.
Nearly 20 million persons have already voted early. When we can put inmates to work and put prisons in private industry, it just seems like the right thing to do in a democracy, to afford these individuals the right to vote. And we should remove every obstruction and every attempt to suppress and block their right to vote. And so we stand in support of the governor and the lieutenant governor and Sheriff Dart, who has set forth a model. He is right. If it can be done here at Cook County, it can be done anywhere.
Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart says through Election Day, he expects 2,000 detainees, roughly half the jail population, to cast a ballot.
Throughout our country, people are putting hurdles up to voting everywhere throughout this country, making it more and more difficult to vote. Here in this county, we're very, very proud to say we not only don't do that, but we insist on our detainees in jails to vote, and we try to make it as easy as possible for them to do that.
A mission he shares with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton.
Always remember that many of the people being detained in our county jails are lingering there simply because they cannot afford bail.
Stratton touting a law recently signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker, which ensures pretrial county jail detainees have the right to vote. She says this will help a predominantly black and brown population.
We are providing access where there was suppression and providing clarity where there was confusion. This polling place at the Cook County Jail gives equal access to the ballot box.
Early voting will be available for detainees this weekend and next. And Sheriff Dart says partner organizations are providing civics lessons. He contends detainees will be among the most well-informed voters.
They're going to feel connected to communities because they're making decisions about who's going to lead their communities.
Stratton also emphasizing what detainees should know about when they exit the justice system.
The fact that when they exit our prison system, their voting rights are restored. They can vote here in Illinois, regardless of having a record.
Many sheriffs, particularly private jails, do not want people to register and vote. You come in jail on Friday, keep you on Monday making money, jails for profit. we fought for the right to vote in Selma, Alabama. It was the sheriff, Jim Clark, attacked us physically for trying to get the right to vote. Many sheriffs' jobs is very political, and they take profits from people by locking them up, and even in the South, prison labor. A lot of them are working while they're in jail, so it's a very messed up system. And we're showing the way, and again, I cannot thank Lieutenant Governor Stratford enough, because her voice as a legislator set the tone.
I'm Todd Geary, Senior Vice President and Chief of Global Policy for the Rainbow Push Coalition. Did you know that most people in jail are eligible to vote, but can't vote because of misinformation, barriers to registration, and structural limitations to casting a ballot at all? Earlier this month, the Rainbow Push Coalition, in partnership with the Prison Policy Initiative, released a report titled Eligible but Excluded, a guide to removing the barriers to jail voting. In this report, co-authored by myself and Ginger Jackson Gleich of PPI, we look at who can vote, who is denied access to the ballot simply because they can't get a ballot, or can't get to a ballot box because they are in jail. As we find ourselves in the middle of the general election voting season, voters from all walks of life are fulfilling their civic responsibility to cast a ballot during this election. Offices at the state and local level, along with all 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, 34 U.S. senators, and the presidency are on the ballot right now. Every citizen who is registered to vote, or in some states wants to register to vote, still has an opportunity to participate in this election. There are some notable exceptions, however. Namely, those persons who find themselves being held in pretrial detention, or in some instances are serving misdemeanor sentences. In most states, access to the ballot box for those who are awaiting trial is a goal that is difficult to achieve. For many who have not been duly convicted, the penalty for being poor is not simply having to wait in jail pending trial because you can't pay the bail, but not being able to vote because while waiting in jail, you can't register, can't get an absentee ballot, and can't make your voice heard. This, we believe, is patently unfair and definitely unjust. Our report examines each state and its rules around voting for persons who are impacted by the criminal justice system. And we identify states that will be our primary focus in addressing the limitations placed on persons in pretrial detention or serving misdemeanor sentences, as well as examining how to expand mandatory voter registration opportunities for persons awaiting trial who have no other limitations placed on their access to the ballot box. We also lay out recommendations on how to best address these structural limitations, including changes to jail policies, state laws, and expanded application of the federal motor voter law. This report will serve as our data-driven framework for a national plan to protect the right to vote for all eligible pretrial detainees and will help us advocate for greater access for persons serving only misdemeanor sentences. In the wake of some of the testimony we heard from Judge Amy Coney Barrett during her confirmation hearing for appointment to the United States Supreme Court, this only makes sense. If in Judge Barrett's opinion, a convicted felon can own a gun because the type of felony was a nonviolent one, then certainly those who have not been convicted or are serving nonviolent misdemeanor sentences should be able to register and vote. There is no more sacred right and duty for any citizen than to cast a ballot in an election. And there is no more grievous harm than to deny persons this right and this duty because the system does not afford these persons the opportunity to vote. We believe that more states can follow the example of Rhode Island, the District of Columbia, and Illinois in expanding access to the ballot box. We have more work to do in this regard. Rainbow Push Coalition, along with our partner, the Prison Policy Initiative, believes that we can do better and we must. So in the coming months, we will be laying out our policy strategy at the state and federal levels to fix a system that is clearly broken. We will be advocating with state governors, in state legislatures, and on Capitol Hill to make sure that the right to vote is real for those in jail. We invite you to join us in this effort. For more information about voting in jails, to access the full report, or to offer your support, go to rainbowpush.org. Every person should be able to vote. That is our belief, and this is our objective. Keep hope alive.
Hi, I'm Chris Broussard, NBA analyst and sports broadcaster, and I want to encourage you to get out there and vote. As you all know, this is an important election, a critical election for our nation, so make sure your voice is heard. If you felt powerless in the past, this is your time to have an impact. If you've never voted before, this is your time to start voting. Vote not only nationally, but locally. This is not just about the president, although obviously that's important. This is also about local elections. So make your voice heard. Go ahead and vote in the 2020 elections.
Thank you to all of our sponsors, to all of our partners, to all of the companies, to Rainbow Push headquarters, to all the people involved in doing what we do on an ongoing basis. Even though I have the privilege of leading the Silicon Valley Bay Area office, standing on the great shoulders of Mr. Butch Wing, it is just amazing to see all of the various pieces that make up this ecosystem of change. But we're going to close out with one of the most phenomenal speakers that God has ever created, who is a part of the Rainbow family. And he continues to make such an impact in so many different areas and so many different silos that God has opened up for him to use his voice and his vote. The awesome Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes of the Friendship West Church in Dallas, Texas.
Kendrick Lamar says, for generations, we've been dealt bad hands with bad plans. And of course, that is a reflection of either a card game or dominoes when someone receives a bad hand. But Kendrick Lamar didn't just stop there with a bad hand. There are bad plans, which speaks of, watch this, an intent to oppress, an intent to repress, an intent to ensure that there is an apartheid of disadvantage for those who are marginalized. And of course, this has been especially expressed in this century in the field of technology. Yeah, for generations, we've been built bad hands with bad plans. Bad hands means that basically there's no way that we should win the game, let alone be in the game. A bad plan reflects a structure that is diabolically designed for our disadvantage. For generations, we've been dealt bad hands with bad plans, but it's so good to know. And I greet you, Pastor Joseph Bryan, and salute you for your leadership. And I especially thank God for how Reverend Jesse Jackson in his vision tapped you to give leadership there in Silicon Valley so that we could bring to pass the vision of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr., and that is equality, even in the tech industry, so that the bad hand that we had been dealt with can be replaced by a good hand of equality of opportunity. So I salute you, Reverend Jesse Jackson, for always being on the cutting edge, always looking out front ahead to help us to open the door to new eras of possibility as we make this country what it claims it endeavors to be, and that is a more perfect union. All of us know that a part of the bad hands and bad plans that we have been dealt has to do with what I like to call tech apartheid. I would call it a tech desert, but a desert is a natural phenomenon. Apartheid refers to something that has been man-made. It has been created with intentionality to advantage those who are already advantaged and to disadvantage those who are already disadvantaged. And yet here is what Rainbow Push is doing in Silicon Valley. Rainbow Push is uniting in holy wedlock theology with technology. There is a relationship between faith and what happens on the keyboard of your computer. And as a consequence, we are ensuring through Rainbow Push that hotspots can be had for our children who find themselves going to school now in the age of COVID-19. But because of COVID-19, they find themselves in a tech desert, unable to access Wi-Fi. And yet, because of Rainbow Push and the vision of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr., we are balancing the playing field. Thank you, Reverend Jackson, for doing that. So we commemorate 5 years of fighting the bad hands and the bad plans. We commemorate 5 years of waging war against tech apartheid. We commemorate 5 years of opening the door to a new era of possibilities in technology as we inform our technology with our liberating theology. But then I especially want to say thank you, because this has also been a vehicle whereby our churches can embrace technology and then use technology to do what Jesus said. He told us to go into all the world. And here we are in the age of COVID-19, where we have been forced to go into virtual spaces, but those virtual spaces have taken us, have propelled us into all the world. And it's because of the efforts of Rainbow Push that many churches now are wired for technology, not just for ministry and worship, but also for service to the community. And so churches like Friendship West here in Dallas, churches around the country are able to bring children to the church house and there have a tech center. And at that tech center, the children can find themselves coding, learning how to code and utilizing their skills that they may be ready to run the race in this present age. And so thank you, Reverend Jackson. Thank you, Reverend Joseph Bryant, for your leadership. Yeah, we've been dealt bad hands with bad plans, but here's the good news. We have another hand, and that hand has been given to us by the hand of Almighty God. And God's hand, as a consequence, has allowed us to play a winning hand. And so thank you for giving us that winning hand. We're going to play that winning hand until justice rolls down as waters and righteousness as an ever-flowing stream. We're going to play that winning hand because it's our responsibility to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. We're going to play our winning hand because when we play our winning hand, America is truly America, and it becomes one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I got my hand. I'm about to play my hand. You've got your hand. Rainbow Push, thank you for giving us a winning hand. And our winning hand is in the hand of our great God, because we understand what it's like to marry, to unite in holy wedlock, theology and technology. And through theology and technology, we are able to give birth to a brand new sociology. And when we have a brand new sociology, this country will become what it should become, and we'll make of this old world a new world. Let's do that through Rainbow Push. We thank you. We praise God for you. And now we look forward to November 3rd. And in looking forward to November 3rd, we're going to vote. I hope and pray you won't wait till November 3rd to vote. If you can vote early, please vote early. Vote early. Do not wait until November 3rd. But if November 3rd comes and you have yet to vote, don't let that day pass without voting. Go ahead and vote and express your voice and your vision for what America should and could be. And when we do that, indeed, America will be America. And when America is America, America will no longer be the disunited States of America, but truly the United States of America. But it can only happen when all of us exercise our voice, cast our vision by casting our vote. Vote November 3rd and hopefully before.
They used to say we were just 3/5 of a man, and we had to fight to be fully recognized. Back then, being counted meant marches, pickets, jail cells, and worse. One way you can show we count in less than 10 minutes is to take the 2020 census. Be a warrior for your community. Be counted and make certain adequate funds and political representation are allocated to your state and your neighborhood. Just select one of these easy options. By phone, call 844-330-2020, online at mycensus2020.gov, or simply mail in your survey. Never forget, you are somebody. Don't delay. Take the census today.
I am somebody.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, about Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody. Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away. Join the movement. Join